Hello everyone. Tonight, we're going to dive into the journey of finding peace in the midst of chaos. Imagine for a moment the world around you is moving at a frantic pace. People rushing by cars, honking the constant noise that never seems to stop. Now take a deep breath and notice how your body responds to this environment. Perhaps you feel tension in your shoulders, a flutter of anxiety, or a racing mind. Have you ever felt like this? That sense of overwhelm, of searching for peace, but finding only more chaos. Peace isn't something that is given to us by the world around us. It's something we cultivate within ourselves. And so before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I'm doing here. Let me know where you're watching from and what time it is there. We'll share this moment together. Now, let's turn off the lights, turn on the fan for some background music, and enjoy the evening ride together. In our lives, we are often thrown into situations that feel chaotic, out of our control. It might be work pressure, family conflicts, or the never-ending stream of tasks. These moments are often so overwhelming that peace seems like a far-off dream. We ask ourselves, where can peace be found in all of this noise? But the truth is, peace isn't found in the absence of chaos. It's found within us no matter how chaotic the world around us may be. The first step in our journey to peace is acknowledging that it's possible. The Buddha taught that all beings have the potential to awaken to peace no matter their circumstances. It doesn't matter how much noise there is in the world. Peace is a skill one that can be cultivated in any moment. When we search for peace, we may find ourselves looking outside of ourselves for the perfect situation, the right environment, or the absence of conflict. But what if we shifted our focus inward? What if instead of hoping for the world to change, we learn to find peace in the midst of it? So how do we begin this journey of finding peace in the chaos? The answer is simple: by letting go. Letting go of the need to control everything. Letting go of our attachments to outcomes. And most importantly, letting go of our expectations. The chaos we experience in our lives is often misunderstood. We think it's something that happens to us, something that invades our peaceful existence and disrupts our sense of balance. But in reality, chaos is not just external. It is a reflection of the state of our minds. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to stay calm and grounded even when everything around them is falling apart? It's because they have learned to manage their internal chaos. In the teachings of Buddhism, we learn that the mind is often like a turbulent ocean. Our thoughts are waves that crash against the shore, pulling us in all directions. When we're caught up in these waves, it feels impossible to find stillness. We try to swim against the current, fighting to get control, but the harder we fight, the more exhausted we become. The Buddha referred to this state as suffering the constant striving, the constant wanting, and the inability to find peace. This is where the concept of mindfulness comes into play. Mindfulness is the practice of becoming aware of our thoughts without judgment, observing them as they arise, and letting them go without attachment. This practice helps us understand that the chaos within us is not something to be feared or fought against, but something to be acknowledged and understood. Just as the ocean's waves will eventually settle, so too will the chaos in our minds if we allow it. The key to understanding chaos is realizing that it is not something separate from us. It is not something that can be fixed by controlling our surroundings. Instead, peace comes when we shift our attention inward, learning to navigate the storm within us. We can begin by observing our thoughts and emotions without getting lost in them, allowing ourselves to just be present with what is happening right here and right now. When we understand that chaos is not something outside of us, but a reflection of our own minds, we are better equipped to deal with it. By practicing mindfulness, we begin to recognize the patterns of our thoughts and emotions. We can start to see how certain thoughts create turbulence while others bring calm. With this awareness, we can gradually shift the way we respond to life's challenges, finding a deeper sense of peace within. So what does it look like to find peace amidst chaos? It starts with acceptance. The acceptance that life will always be unpredictable, that things will not always go as planned. But instead of resisting these circumstances, we choose to embrace them with an open heart and a calm mind. This is the beginning of true peace. As we continue our journey toward peace, one of the most profound lessons we can learn is the power of letting go. Letting go is often misunderstood. It's not about giving up or resigning ourselves to fate. Instead, it's about releasing our attachment to the things that cause us suffering. Have you ever held on so tightly to something, only to realize later that it was causing you more pain than peace? In the Buddhist teachings, letting go is a central practice. The Buddha taught that suffering arises from attachment to people, possessions, outcomes, and even our own ideas and expectations. These attachments bind us to suffering because they create an illusion of control. We believe that we need certain things in our lives to be happy, or that certain people need to behave a certain way to bring us peace. But when we release these attachments, we discover that peace has always been within us. Letting go doesn't mean abandoning everything in our lives. It means no longer allowing our happiness to be dependent on external circumstances. It's about loosening our grip on the things that we cling to for security and trusting that we are enough just as we are. Imagine for a moment holding on to a heavy weight. It might feel comforting at first, but eventually your muscles will tire and the weight will begin to feel unbearable. Now imagine releasing that weight. What happens? You feel lighter, freer, and more at ease. This is what happens when we let go of the things that weigh us down, whether it's a past grievance, an unrealistic expectation, or a fear of the unknown. When we let go, we make space for peace to enter. Letting go is not something that happens overnight. It's a gradual process that requires patience and self-compassion. We often find ourselves holding on to things out of habit, even when we know they no longer serve us. But with mindfulness, we can begin to notice these attachments and start the process of releasing them. One powerful way to practice letting go is through meditation. Meditation teaches us to sit with our thoughts and emotions without clinging to them. When a thought arises, we don't try to push it away or hold on to it. We simply observe it and let it pass. Over time, this practice helps us cultivate the ability to let go of our attachments in everyday life. Instead of reacting to every situation with stress or fear, we learn to respond with openness and acceptance. By letting go of the need to control everything, we free ourselves from the cycle of constant striving. We begin to understand that life is not about achieving certain outcomes or getting everything we want. It's about learning to be at peace with what is. Think about your own life for a moment. Are there areas where you're holding on to things too tightly? Maybe it's a relationship that's no longer serving you, or a belief that is causing you stress. The first step is recognizing what you're holding on to and asking yourself, is this really helping me find peace? When we let go of the things that no longer serve us, we make space for new opportunities, new experiences, and new ways of being. Letting go is not about losing something. It's about creating the space to receive something greater, peace, contentment, and the freedom to live fully in the present moment. The practice of letting go is a gift that we give ourselves. It's an act of self-love and self-compassion. It's a way of saying, I am enough and I don't need to carry all this weight anymore. And as we let go, we begin to see the world around us in a new light. We stop looking for peace outside of ourselves and start realizing that peace is within us all along. So as you go through your day, remember, this peace is not something you find by holding on. It's something you discover by letting go. In our pursuit of inner peace, we often encounter the concept of detachment. Many of us may have heard the word detachment in relation to Zen and Buddhism, and it can be easy to misinterpret. Detachment doesn't mean disconnecting from life or becoming cold and indifferent. Rather, it's about being able to engage fully in life while not becoming overly attached to the results. But why is detachment so important in our search for peace? Zen teachings highlight the importance of non-attachment as a way of transcending the suffering caused by clinging. When we become attached to a person, an outcome, or a material possession, we often end up tying our happiness to something external. This creates a fragile sense of peace, one that can easily be disrupted when life doesn't go as planned. The key to true peace, then, is learning to let go of these attachments and develop a more balanced and centered approach to life. Detachment doesn't mean we stop caring about the people and things in our lives. Instead, it means we can love without clinging, we can work without obsessing over the outcome, and we can live without expecting everything to turn out a certain way. When we detach from the need to control, we allow ourselves to experience life more fully, with less resistance and more acceptance. Imagine for a moment that you're holding a beautiful flower in your hand. You admire its colors, its fragrance, and the way it feels in your grasp. But as you continue holding it, you realize that you're gripping it too tightly, and the petals start to wilt under the pressure. The flower is not dying because of anything it has done, but because of the way you're holding it. This is what happens when we hold on to things too tightly in life. The more we cling to something, the more we risk damaging it, whether it's a relationship, a dream, or even our sense of self. In Zen practice, detachment is often described as a form of freedom. It's the freedom to experience life as it is without becoming entangled in expectations or judgments. Zen masters teach that when we let go of our attachment to outcomes, we free ourselves from the cycle of desire and suffering. In this state of detachment, we can fully appreciate life in its present form without constantly striving for something else. Detachment also allows us to respond to life with greater clarity and wisdom. When we are not attached to a particular outcome, we are better able to see things as they truly are without the distortion of our desires or fears. This is why detachment is considered an essential element of the path to enlightenment in Buddhism. It clears the mind, opens the heart, and creates the space necessary for true wisdom to emerge. How can we begin practicing detachment in our daily lives? The first step is awareness. Begin to notice the moments when you feel attached to something or someone. Do you feel anxious about a future event? Are you holding on to a belief that no longer serves you? Acknowledging these attachments is the first step toward releasing them. Once we become aware of our attachments, we can gently begin to let them go. This doesn't mean we have to force ourselves to stop caring or stop pursuing our goals. Instead, we can cultivate an attitude of acceptance, understanding that the only thing we truly control is our response to life. Detachment is about letting go of the need to control the outcome and trusting that life will unfold as it should. Zen also teaches us to be present in the moment. When we are fully immersed in the present, we are not thinking about the past or worrying about the future. In this state of mindfulness, we are able to experience life without attachment to specific outcomes. This allows us to act with clarity, focus, and compassion rather than from a place of fear or desire. Through the practice of detachment, we begin to understand that peace is not something we find by holding on, but by letting go. It's about surrendering our need for control and embracing the flow of life, no matter how unpredictable it may seem. When we detach, we free ourselves from the constraints of our attachments, and we open ourselves to the possibility of experiencing life more deeply and authentically. Letting go of attachment is not an easy task, but it is a transformative one. As we release our grip on the things that no longer serve us, we make space for new possibilities, new experiences, and new ways of being. And in doing so, we discover that peace was never something to be sought outside of ourselves. It was always within us, waiting to be uncovered. As we delve deeper into the teachings of Zen and Buddhism, one of the most important concepts to understand is the nature of the clinging mind. Have you ever noticed how your mind tends to cling to certain thoughts, memories, or desires, even when they cause you stress or discomfort? This is the nature of the mind. It grabs hold of things and refuses to let go, creating a cycle of attachment and suffering. The Buddha taught that all beings suffer because of their attachments, and the root of all attachment is desire. We desire wealth, love, approval, comfort, and countless other things. These desires are not inherently bad. They are a natural part of being human. However, the problem arises when we become attached to these desires and believe that they are necessary for our happiness. This attachment creates suffering because we are constantly chasing after something that is elusive and transient. In Zen practice, the clinging mind is seen as a major obstacle to peace. The more we cling, the more restless our minds become. We become trapped in a cycle of wanting and grasping, and no matter how much we acquire, we are never truly satisfied. This is why Zen teaches us to release our attachment to desires and to simply observe our thoughts without becoming entangled in them. The first step in overcoming the clinging mind is to recognize it. When you notice that you're holding on to a thought, a worry, or a desire, simply observe it without judgment. Don't try to push it away or deny it. Just let it be. By acknowledging the presence of the clinging mind without reacting to it, we begin to break the cycle of attachment. A powerful metaphor used in Zen to describe the clinging mind is that of a monkey in a tree. Imagine a monkey swinging from branch to branch, grabbing onto anything it can, never staying in one place for too long. The monkey is constantly in motion, seeking something to hold on to, never satisfied with what it has. This is how the mind works when we are caught in attachment, constantly grasping, constantly moving, and never finding true peace. The monkey's restlessness is driven by its fear of letting go. It believes that if it lets go of one branch, it will fall. Similarly, the clinging mind fears the unknown. We fear that if we let go of our desires, we will lose something important. But in reality, the opposite is true. When we let go, we are no longer controlled by fear or desire. and we open ourselves to a deeper sense of peace. Zen practice offers several tools to help us tame the clinging mind. One of the most effective tools is mindfulness meditation. In mindfulness meditation, we learn to observe our thoughts without attaching to them. We simply watch them arise and pass away like clouds drifting across the sky. By practicing mindfulness, we begin to understand that thoughts are temporary and ever-changing, and we no longer need to cling to them. Another key practice in Zen is noting or labeling thoughts as they arise. When a thought comes to mind, simply note what it is, thinking, worrying, planning, or whatever label fits. By doing this, we create a little distance between ourselves and the thought, and we stop identifying with it. This helps to prevent the mind from becoming entangled in the thought and reinforces the understanding that we are not our thoughts. Over time, with consistent practice, we develop the ability to remain calm and centered even when the mind is restless. We learn to observe our thoughts without getting swept away by them, and we develop the ability to let go of the things that no longer serve us. This is the essence of Zen practice, learning to be present with whatever arises without clinging, without resistance. So, as you reflect on your own life, notice when your mind is clinging to something. It could be a past event, a fear of the future, or a desire for something you don't have. Take a moment to simply observe that thought without judgment. Allow it to come and go without holding on. In doing so, you'll begin to experience the freedom that comes from letting go of the clinging mind. Remember, peace isn't something that is obtained by acquiring more or holding on to what we already have. It's found when we release the grip and let things flow naturally. By freeing ourselves from the clinging mind, we allow ourselves to experience life with more clarity, more ease, and more peace. In our journey towards peace, one of the most powerful tools we can cultivate is the ability to live fully in the present moment. How often do you find yourself lost in thoughts about the past or the future, unable to fully experience the here and now? The Buddha taught that suffering arises when we are either clinging to the past or anxiously anticipating the future. Peace, on the other hand, is found in the present, in this very moment. The present moment is all we ever truly have. The past is a collection of memories, and the future is an uncertain possibility. But the present is real. It's where life is happening, and it's the only moment we can truly control. Yet, despite its importance, the present moment is often the most overlooked. Our minds tend to wander, caught up in regrets about what has already happened, or worries about what may come. In Zen practice, the present moment is at the heart of mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of being fully aware of whatever is happening in the present without judgment or distraction. When we are mindful, we are fully immersed in what we are doing, whether it's drinking a cup of tea, walking in nature, or simply breathing. We are not thinking about what happened yesterday or what might happen tomorrow. We are simply present with what is. Living in the present moment may sound simple, but it's a skill that requires practice. Our minds are conditioned to jump from one thought to the next, often without our awareness. This constant mental chatter pulls us away from the present and creates a sense of disconnection. But when we bring our attention back to the present, we begin to see the beauty and peace that is always available to us. A powerful way to cultivate presence is through mindful breathing. Every time you breathe in, you can remind yourself, this is the present moment. With each exhale, You let go of the distractions and the worries. Your breath becomes a gentle anchor, bringing you back to the here and now. Imagine sitting quietly, focusing only on your breath. As you inhale, you feel the cool air enter your body. As you exhale, you let go of any tension. You are fully aware of each breath, each sensation, each moment. In this space, there is no past, no future, only the present. This is where peace resides. But living in the present moment doesn't mean ignoring the past or the future. It means giving them their rightful place without allowing them to dominate our thoughts. We can reflect on the past to learn from it, and we can plan for the future to prepare for what's ahead. However, we do so with awareness, without letting these thoughts pull us away from the present. This practice of being present is not just about meditation or formal mindfulness exercises. It's about bringing mindfulness into every aspect of your life. When you're eating, focus on the taste of your food. When you're walking, notice the sensations in your feet as they touch the ground. When you're talking to someone, listen deeply without thinking about your next response. By practicing mindfulness in these small moments, we gradually train our minds to stay in the present. So how do we make the present moment our home? It starts with small steps. Begin by paying attention to your breath, grounding yourself in the now. Notice when your mind drifts and gently bring it back. With practice, the present moment becomes more and more familiar, and you begin to experience life with a sense of clarity and calm that you may have never felt before. Living in the present moment doesn't mean that everything will always be peaceful or easy. Life still brings challenges, pain, and uncertainty. But by focusing on the present, we can face these challenges with a clearer mind and a more open heart. We no longer get lost in the past or the future, but remain rooted in the reality of the moment. And in this space, peace is always available. The next time you feel overwhelmed or anxious, remember that peace is always accessible through the present moment. The past and the future can wait, but right now is where your true power lies. Allow yourself to fully experience this moment without judgment, without distraction, and you will find the peace you've been seeking all along. Life is full of storms, both literal and metaphorical. From sudden personal crises to the relentless rush of daily responsibilities, it often feels like chaos is swirling around us. And yet amid all the noise and turbulence, true peace and stillness are always available. Have you ever experienced a moment of calm within a storm? It's a profound sensation. The quiet, amidst the clamor, the inner stillness that remains unaffected by external events. This is the essence of Zen practice, finding stillness within the storm. Zen teaches us that peace is not a passive state where everything is calm and quiet. Rather, it's the ability to remain centered even when the world around us is anything but peaceful. When we cultivate this stillness, we don't require the circumstances of our lives to be perfect in order to experience peace. The storm may rage, but we remain unmoved at our core. Imagine for a moment being in the midst of a heavy storm. The wind howls, the rain pours down, and yet at the very center of the storm, there is a place of perfect calm. This eye of the storm represents the stillness within us. No matter how intense the storm may be, we can always find that quiet center within if we know how to look for it. The key to finding this stillness lies in letting go of our attachment to the storm itself. We often get swept up in the chaos of life because we identify with it. When things are going well, we feel peaceful When things are going poorly, we feel anxious. Our inner peace is constantly shifting with the conditions of the world. But true peace comes when we realize that we do not need to be defined by the storm. Instead, we can become the observer, the witness to it, without becoming engulfed by it. This concept of inner stillness is not something that comes easily, especially in our modern world, which is filled with distractions and pressures. But Zen offers us a simple practice to access this peace mindfulness. Through mindfulness, we can cultivate a state of awareness that allows us to stay grounded no matter what is happening around us. When we practice mindfulness, we bring our attention fully into the present moment. We observe our thoughts, emotions, and sensations without judgment or reaction. This practice creates a space between us and the storm, the space where we can choose how to respond rather than being swept away by the forces of life. It's in this space that we find our stillness. Imagine you're sitting in a quiet room, but the storm outside is fierce. As you sit there, you can hear the wind howling and the rain beating against the windows. Yet within you, there is a deep sense of calm. You are not resisting the storm, but neither are you allowing it to control your state of being. This is the power of mindfulness, the ability to remain steady no matter the external circumstances. Zen masters often speak of the importance of being fully present in the moment, no matter what that moment may bring. Whether we are facing a crisis or enjoying a peaceful afternoon, we can find stillness by staying rooted in the present. The storm may be loud and intense, but it cannot touch the core of who we are unless we let it. The practice of mindfulness can help us remember this. When we feel ourselves being swept away by emotions, thoughts, or external circumstances, we can pause, take a deep breath, and return to the present moment. With each breath, we create space for stillness to emerge. And with that stillness, peace follows. Finding stillness in the storm is not about avoiding challenges or pretending that everything is fine when it's not. It's about learning how to respond to life's challenges with clarity and calm, rather than reacting with fear or stress. It's about cultivating a deep inner peace that remains unshaken no matter what happens in the world around us. As you move through your day, notice the moments when you feel overwhelmed or anxious. In those moments, take a deep breath and remind yourself that the storm may be outside, but your peace is within. You are the stillness at the center of the storm, unshaken and calm. The more we practice mindfulness and stillness, the easier it becomes to access this inner calm, no matter what life throws at us. In this way, we can face life's challenges with grace and resilience, knowing that peace is always within our reach. One of the greatest obstacles to finding peace is the noise of the mind. Have you ever sat down to meditate or simply tried to relax, only to be overwhelmed by an endless stream of thoughts, worries, and distractions? The mind is constantly churning, moving from one thought to the next, never allowing us a moment of quiet. This mental noise can be exhausting, making it difficult to find stillness, let alone peace. Zen teachings often speak about the mind as a monkey, jumping from thought to thought, with no direction or purpose. Imagine for a moment trying to sit still while a monkey jumps around, chattering away in your ear. It's nearly impossible to focus, isn't it? This is the experience many of us face when we attempt to meditate or simply be present with ourselves. The mind constantly pulls us away from the moment, and we feel overwhelmed by the noise it creates. The Buddha taught that the mind is the source of much of our suffering. Our thoughts often lead us to dwell on past regrets or anxieties about the future. When we're caught in this cycle, we're unable to experience the present moment with clarity. We are stuck in our thoughts, lost in the noise. And because we identify so strongly with our thoughts, we begin to believe that they define us. We forget that we are not our thoughts, we are the observer of them. The key to silencing the mind's noise is not to force the thoughts away, but to change our relationship with them. Zen teaches us that thoughts are like clouds in the sky, they come and go. We don't need to hold on to them or push them away. We simply let them pass. The more we practice observing our thoughts without attachment, the quieter the mind becomes. One of the most effective ways to quiet the mind is through the practice of mindfulness meditation. In mindfulness, we simply observe our thoughts without judgment. When a thought arises, we don't try to control it or suppress it. Instead, we acknowledge it and then gently bring our focus back to the present moment, whether it's our breath, the sounds around us, or the sensations in our body. At first, this practice can feel difficult. Thoughts may seem relentless, and it may feel as though the mind is impossible to tame. But over time, with consistent practice, we begin to notice that the thoughts don't have as much power over us. We start to realize that we can choose where to place our attention, and we can let go of the constant mental chatter. The more we practice mindfulness, the more we learn to create space between ourselves and our thoughts. This space allows us to experience a sense of peace, even when the mind is active. Instead of being consumed by our thoughts, we become the observer. We notice them, acknowledge them, and let them go. With each breath, we return to the present moment, allowing the noise of the mind to fade away. Another powerful tool in quieting the mind is cultivating awareness of the body. Often, the mind becomes noisy because it is disconnected from the body. When we're caught up in our thoughts, we may forget to notice the sensations in our body or the rhythm of our breath. By focusing on the body, whether it's the sensation of our feet on the ground or the rise and fall of our chest with each breath, we anchor ourselves in the present. This practice helps to calm the mind and quiet the noise, bringing us back to a place of stillness. The noise of the mind is not something that can be eradicated overnight, but with patience and practice, we can learn to live with it more peacefully. The key is not to resist the thoughts or try to control them, but to observe them with mindfulness. Over time, the noise begins to soften, and we find more moments of calm and clarity. So as you go through your day, notice when your mind is racing. When you catch yourself caught up in thought, gently bring your attention back to your breath, your body, or the present moment. With each breath, you are creating space between yourself and the noise of the mind. In this space, peace is always available to you. The more we practice mindfulness and awareness, the more we can quiet the mind's constant chatter. We begin to understand that peace is not something to be found outside of ourselves. It's always within, waiting to be uncovered. By letting go of our attachment to the noise of the mind, we free ourselves to experience life more fully and peacefully. Mindfulness is one of the most powerful tools we can use to cultivate peace and let go of the things that no longer serve us. It's often said that mindfulness is the art of being present, but its true power lies in its ability to help us release attachment to the past, the future, and everything that disturbs our inner peace. Have you ever tried to be fully present in a moment, only to find your mind drifting back to past regrets or future worries. In Zen and Buddhist teachings, mindfulness is the practice of bringing our full attention to the present moment without judgment. It's about observing our thoughts, feelings, and sensations without becoming attached to them. By practicing mindfulness, we learn to notice what is happening within and around us without getting caught up in it. We begin to experience life as it truly is, free from the distortion of our anxieties and expectations. At first, the practice of mindfulness may feel like an overwhelming task. Our minds are constantly pulled in different directions, and it can be difficult to stay focused. But with patience and consistent practice, mindfulness becomes a natural part of our lives. We start to notice when our thoughts are drifting, and instead of getting frustrated, we simply return our attention to the present moment. One of the simplest ways to practice mindfulness is by focusing on the breath. The breath is always with us, and it is the perfect anchor to the present moment. Take a moment now to focus on your breath. Feel the air entering and leaving your body. Notice the rise and fall of your chest or abdomen with each inhale and exhale. As you do this, you might notice that your mind begins to wander. Thoughts may arise, but instead of following them, gently bring your attention back to the breath. This is mindfulness in its simplest form, being fully present with the breath and letting go of any distractions. Mindfulness can also be practiced in everyday activities. Whether you're eating, walking, or talking to someone, you can bring your full attention to the task at hand. When you eat, notice the taste, texture, and smell of your food. When you walk, feel the ground beneath your feet and the movement of your body. By engaging fully in the present moment, you begin to let go of the constant mental chatter that keeps you disconnected from life. Through mindfulness, we learn that it's not the external world that causes our suffering, but the way we relate to it. When we are caught up in our thoughts, we become attached to them, believing that they define us or that they are the truth. But when we practice mindfulness, we see that thoughts are just thoughts, they come and go, and we don't have to attach ourselves to them. We begin to realize that our true nature is not defined by our thoughts, feelings, or circumstances. We are the awareness behind them. As we become more mindful, we also begin to cultivate compassion for ourselves and others. We learn to observe our emotions and reactions without judgment, creating space for self-compassion. When we are kind and gentle with ourselves, we are more able to let go of the things that cause us suffering. We stop judging ourselves for feeling anxious or frustrated, and instead, we offer ourselves understanding and love. This shift in perspective allows us to release our attachment to negative emotions and thoughts, creating more space for peace and clarity. The beauty of mindfulness is that it is always available to us no matter where we are or what we are doing. Whether we are sitting in meditation, walking through a crowded street, or lying in bed, we can always return to the present moment. In this moment, there is no past or future. There is only now. And in that now, peace resides. The practice of mindfulness helps us let go of our need to control everything. When we're present, we stop trying to fix change or manipulate our circumstances. Instead, we allow life to unfold naturally. This doesn't mean we become passive or stop taking action, but rather that we take action from a place of clarity and wisdom, not from a place of fear or attachment. So the next time you feel overwhelmed or caught up in your thoughts, pause and take a deep breath. Return to the present moment and notice what is happening right now. Allow yourself to be fully present with whatever is happening without judgment or resistance. With each breath, you will let go of the need to control, and in doing so, you will create space for peace to enter your life. Mindfulness is a practice, and like all practices, it requires patience and dedication. But as you continue on your journey, you will find that peace becomes more accessible, more natural, and more present in every moment. Compassion is often seen as a path to healing, both for others and ourselves. But have you ever thought about how compassion might be the key to inner peace? In our daily lives, we tend to focus on our own struggles, our own desires, and our own frustrations. However, when we shift our attention to the well-being of others, we open up a space within ourselves for peace and harmony to grow. Buddhism teaches that compassion is not only a feeling we extend to others, but also a state of mind that we cultivate within ourselves. True compassion is about recognizing the suffering in others and in ourselves without judgment. It's about opening our hearts to the pain of the world and offering kindness, understanding, and love in response. When we practice compassion, we are not only helping others heal, but we are also creating the conditions for our own peace. The Buddha taught that the key to overcoming suffering is to understand the interconnectedness of all beings. Our suffering is not isolated to ourselves. It's shared by the world. And in the same way, our joy and peace can be shared. By extending compassion to others, we begin to see ourselves in them. We recognize that their pain is our pain, and their happiness is our happiness. This shift in perspective allows us to open our hearts to others without attachment, judgment, or expectation. But how do we begin to practice compassion, especially in a world that often feels divided and full of conflict? The first step is cultivating self-compassion. We cannot extend compassion to others if we don't first learn to be kind to ourselves. Too often, we are our own harshest critics. We beat ourselves up for our mistakes, judge ourselves for our perceived flaws, and deny ourselves the love and care we so freely give to others. Self-compassion involves treating ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer to a close friend. When we experience difficulty, we acknowledge our suffering without judgment. Instead of criticizing ourselves for feeling pain, we offer ourselves kindness and encouragement. This self-compassion becomes the foundation from which we can extend compassion to others. When we practice self-compassion, we begin to heal our inner wounds. We stop carrying the heavy burden of self-criticism and guilt. In doing so, we create space for inner peace to grow. It's only when we can accept and love ourselves that we are truly able to offer love and understanding to others. Once we have cultivated self-compassion, we can then extend that same compassion to others. It doesn't require grand gestures or fixing their problems. It simply requires us to be present to listen and to offer kindness without judgment. Compassion means being willing to sit with someone in their suffering, even when we cannot solve their pain. It's about showing up with empathy, allowing others to feel seen and heard, and offering support without expectation. There is a Zen story about a monk who saw a wounded bird on the side of the road. Instead of simply passing by, he took the bird in his hands, cared for it, and nurtured it back to health. This simple act of kindness represents the essence of compassion. Compassion is about being fully present for others, offering care, understanding, and gentleness when they are in need. It's also about offering forgiveness. Forgiveness is a powerful form of compassion, not just for others, but for ourselves. When we hold on to anger, resentment, or grudges, we are only hurting ourselves. Forgiveness allows us to release these negative emotions, freeing ourselves from the burden of pain and resentment. When we forgive, we open our hearts to peace. By practicing compassion, we start to see beyond the surface level of our relationships. We stop seeing others as separate from ourselves and start recognizing our shared humanity. When we understand that everyone just like us is struggling with their own pain, fears, and challenges, we develop a deep sense of empathy. This empathy becomes the foundation of compassion. As we extend compassion to others, we begin to notice the shift within ourselves. We feel lighter, more at peace. Our hearts open, and we no longer feel isolated in our own suffering. Instead, we realize that we are part of a larger whole, a vast interconnected web of beings, all of us seeking peace, love, and understanding. The practice of compassion not only brings peace to those we help, but also nurtures our own inner peace. The more we give, the more we receive. By offering love-kindness and understanding to others, we create a positive cycle of peace that extends outward, touching everyone we encounter. Compassion becomes a path to healing, a path to peace, and a path to true connection with ourselves and the world around us. So as you move through your day, consider where you can practice compassion. It might be a smile to a stranger, a kind word to a friend, or simply being present for someone who needs a listening ear. Remember, compassion is not a rare or extraordinary act. It is a simple daily choice to open our hearts and offer kindness. In doing so, we discover that the peace we seek is always available both within us and in the world. We often think that in order to find peace, we need to control our surroundings. After all, control seems like a solution to many of life's challenges. If we could control our schedules, our relationships, and our circumstances, life would be easier, wouldn't it? But in reality, the more we try to control, the more we set ourselves up for stress and disappointment. Have you ever noticed that the tighter you grip onto something, the more it slips away? The Buddha recognized that suffering arises from the desire for control. We try to control everything around us, whether it's our relationships, our work, or even our emotions. But no matter how hard we try, life will always be unpredictable, and our attempts to control it only lead to frustration. This is one of the great paradoxes of life. The more we try to control, the less control we actually have. The Zen teachings offer us a different perspective. Rather than trying to control everything, we are invited to embrace life as it comes. Zen encourages us to let go of the need to control the outcome and instead focus on the present moment. When we release our attachment to control, we allow ourselves to respond more freely and authentically to whatever arises in our lives. In this space, peace can be found not in the absence of chaos, but in the acceptance of it. When we try to control everything, we end up battling life. We resist what is happening right now because we want things to be different. But the truth is that resistance only causes more suffering. The Zen master, when asked how to deal with the storm, replied, "Don't resist the wind, let it blow where it will." This lesson teaches us that we do not need to fight the winds of change or struggle against the current of life. Instead, we can allow ourselves to move with the flow. This doesn't mean that we become passive or stop taking action. On the contrary, it means that we take action from a place of clarity and wisdom. not from a place of fear or anxiety. When we release our attachment to controlling the outcome, we are free to respond with openness and acceptance rather than from a place of resistance. Imagine for a moment that you're trying to hold onto a handful of sand. The tighter you squeeze, the more sand slips through your fingers. No matter how hard you try, you cannot hold onto all of it. Now imagine that instead of gripping tightly, you gently cup the sand in your hands, allowing it to flow naturally. You still have the sand, but you're no longer fighting it. This is what it means to release the need for control, to hold on to life, gently allowing things to unfold as they will, without attachment or resistance. When we stop trying to control everything, we begin to experience life in a new way. We start to notice the beauty in the unpredictability. Instead of fearing uncertainty, we embrace it. We understand that life is not something we need to dominate, but something we need to experience fully with openness and curiosity. The paradox of control is that by letting go of the need to control, we actually gain more control over our peace and well-being. When we stop fighting against life, we free ourselves to be fully present. This allows us to respond to challenges with calmness and clarity. We no longer waste energy resisting what is happening. Instead, we use that energy to navigate life with a sense of ease. Zen practice teaches us to live with the flow of life, accepting each moment as it comes. Whether the moment is one of joy, sadness, challenge, or ease, we can embrace it fully without needing to change it. By practicing this acceptance, we open ourselves to a deeper experience of life and peace. So the next time you feel the urge to control or resist, take a step back and ask yourself, what would happen if I let go of my attachment to this outcome? Can you allow life to unfold naturally without trying to force it? By doing so, you'll find that peace is not something you need to create or control. It's already present, waiting to be experienced. Letting go of control doesn't mean giving up. It means freeing yourself to live with more ease, joy, and peace. The less we try to control, the more we are able to experience life as it truly is. And in that space, peace will always be present. Life is full of challenges, and yet most of the time, we resist them. When something difficult arises, whether it's a disagreement with a loved one, a setback at work, or an unexpected change in plans, our instinct is often to push back, to fight against it, or to wish it were different. But have you ever stopped to wonder what happens when we stop resisting? What if, instead of fighting against life's challenges, we embrace them? Zen teachings speak deeply about the importance of non-resistance. In Buddhism, resistance is seen as a source of suffering. When we resist, we struggle with reality, fighting against what is. But by accepting life as it is without resistance, we free ourselves from the burden of unnecessary struggle. Non-resistance doesn't mean passivity. Rather, it's the act of fully experiencing each moment, even the difficult ones, with acceptance and without judgment. Imagine a river flowing gently down its path. If a rock stands in the way, the water does not resist or fight the rock. It simply flows around it. The river accepts the rock's presence, and in doing so, it continues on its path without being blocked. This is the essence of non-resistance, not fighting the obstacles in our way, but flowing around them with grace and acceptance. When we practice non-resistance, we begin to realize that life is not something to be controlled or conquered. It's something to be lived and experienced fully. Non-resistance teaches us to stop trying to change things that are beyond our control. Whether it's a difficult situation, a painful emotion, or a challenge in our relationships, we can learn to meet each moment with openness and curiosity rather than resistance and fear. One of the core teachings of Zen is that life is impermanent. Everything changes: our emotions, our circumstances, even the weather. Resistance arises when we cling to the way we want things to be, rather than accepting them as they are. When we let go of the need to control and instead embrace life as it is, we align ourselves with the flow of the universe, which is ever-changing and unpredictable. Non-resistance is a practice that takes time and patience to cultivate. It's easy to say, let go of resistance, but much harder to actually do it in the moment. However, the more we practice, the easier it becomes to meet life with acceptance. The next time you find yourself struggling, try to take a step back and ask yourself, what would it feel like if I didn't resist this? Instead of wishing the situation were different, allow yourself to be fully present with it. Notice your feelings, your thoughts, and the sensations in your body, but don't judge them. Just observe. By practicing non-resistance, we create a space for peace to emerge. We stop fighting the present moment, and instead, we welcome it exactly as it is. This doesn't mean we become passive or disengaged from life. It simply means we no longer fight against the flow. When we stop resisting, we stop creating unnecessary suffering for ourselves. We let go of the need to control and allow life to unfold naturally. Non-resistance also teaches us how to approach our emotions. Often, we resist our emotions, especially the uncomfortable ones, like fear, anger, or sadness. We push them away, suppress them, or try to avoid feeling them. But the more we resist, the more these emotions seem to grow and control us. Instead of resisting these emotions, non-resistance invites us to experience them fully without judgment. By allowing ourselves to feel, rather than repress, we begin to release the grip that these emotions have on us. This practice can be especially transformative when we experience negative emotions like anger or frustration. Instead of reacting impulsively or pushing these emotions aside, we can simply sit with them, allowing ourselves to feel them deeply without trying to change them. When we do this, we discover that emotions are not permanent. They rise, they peak, and they eventually pass. By practicing non-resistance, we make space for emotions to flow freely without becoming overwhelmed by them. In moments of conflict or discomfort, remember the river's wisdom. Life will present challenges and obstacles, but we don't need to fight them. Instead, we can meet them with acceptance and flow around them. Non-resistance doesn't mean we allow ourselves to be passive in the face of adversity. It means we stop struggling against life and start moving with it. The more we practice non-resistance, the more we begin to experience peace, not in the absence of difficulties, but in the way we approach them. By embracing life as it is, we make space for peace to enter. The practice of non-resistance is not about abandoning our desires or goals. It's about embracing the present moment without clinging to an outcome. We act with intention, but we let go of attachment to the results. In this way, we remain open to whatever life brings us and free from the suffering that resistance creates. As you move through your day, practice non-resistance by letting go of your need to control each situation. Instead, meet life with acceptance and openness, knowing that peace will follow when you stop struggling. In Zen, one of the most profound lessons is letting go of the self. This is not a denial of who we are, but rather a deeper understanding of our true nature. In our everyday lives, we are often identified with our roles, our names, our accomplishments, and our possessions. But when we grasp too tightly to this sense of self, we create barriers between ourselves and the peace we seek. Letting go of the self means releasing the attachment to these labels and identities, allowing us to experience life without the constraints of ego. There is a beautiful Zen story that illustrates this lesson. A monk once approached his master, deeply troubled by his thoughts. "Master," he said, "I cannot let go of myself. I am filled with desires, and I don't know how to release them." The master, without saying a word, led the monk to a nearby pond. He asked the monk to place a handful of dirt into the water, and then to try and separate the dirt from the water. Of course, the monk could not. The dirt had become part of the water, just as the monk's attachment to his sense of self had become deeply ingrained in his life. The master smiled and said, "Only when you let go of the dirt will you see the water clearly." This story teaches us that when we cling to the self, our thoughts, desires, and ego, we are like the dirt in the water. We cannot see clearly, and we cannot experience life fully. To truly let go, we must allow ourselves to be as the water fluid, free and open. The more we hold on to the ego, the more we distort our perception of reality. But when we let go of our attachment to the self, we can experience the world as it truly is. Letting go of the self is not about erasing who we are. It's about understanding that our identity is not fixed. It's about recognizing that our true nature is not defined by our past, our possessions, or our achievements. In Zen practice, we are encouraged to let go of the narrative we've created about ourselves and simply be present in the moment. This is where true freedom lies. When we stop identifying with our thoughts and labels, we experience life in its purest form. This doesn't mean that we stop acting in the world or stop having desires. Rather, it means that we no longer attach our sense of worth to these things. We can still pursue goals, form relationships, and experience life's pleasures, but we do so with a sense of detachment, understanding that these things are temporary and not the essence of who we are. When we release the need to define ourselves, we open ourselves to a deeper connection with the world and the people around us. The practice of letting go of the self is a gradual one. It requires patience, self-awareness, and mindfulness. One way to practice this is through meditation. As you sit in meditation, allow yourself to observe your thoughts without attaching to them. Notice the stories your mind tells you about who you are, your desires, your struggles. Acknowledge them, but don't identify with them. Let them pass like clouds drifting across the sky. The more you practice this, the more you begin to see that you are not your thoughts or your ego. You are the awareness behind them. Another way to let go of the self is through acts of service. When we serve others without expecting anything in return, we transcend the ego. We step outside of our own desires and experience life from a place of selflessness. This act of giving without attachment helps us let go of our fixation on ourselves and opens our hearts to the world around us. By letting go of the self, we create the space for true peace to enter. Without the weight of our ego, we experience the freedom of simply being. We no longer feel the need to prove ourselves, to compete, or to defend our identity. We can simply be present, accepting ourselves and others as they are. This is the essence of Zen, living without attachment, without resistance, and with an open heart. As you go through your day, try to observe moments when you are clinging to your sense of self, when you are attached to a particular outcome, a specific identity, or a judgment about yourself or others. Notice how this attachment creates stress or discomfort. Now try to release that attachment. Let go of the need to define yourself and simply be present in the moment. This practice may feel uncomfortable at first, but over time, it will bring a deep sense of peace and freedom. When you let go of the self, you make room for your true essence to emerge, a being of peace, love, and connection with all that is. One of the fundamental teachings in both Zen and Buddhist philosophy is impermanence, the understanding that everything is transient, that nothing lasts forever. This idea can seem unsettling at first. We are conditioned to seek permanence, to desire stability and security. We build relationships, careers, and dreams, hoping that they will last forever. But the truth is that all things, our experiences, our possessions, our loved ones, are temporary. Have you ever noticed how difficult it can be to accept the impermanence of life? When something or someone important to us changes or fades away, we feel a deep sense of loss. We may struggle to accept that life is constantly in motion, that change is inevitable. But in Zen, the acceptance of impermanence is actually the key to peace. The Buddha taught that attachment to things that are impermanent is the root of suffering. We hold on tightly to people, experiences, and possessions, believing they will bring us lasting happiness. But this attachment only leads to disappointment because we are clinging to something that cannot last. The more we try to hold on, the more we suffer when those things inevitably change. But impermanence is not something to fear. In fact, it's what makes life so beautiful. The fact that everything is fleeting means that every moment is precious. It gives us the opportunity to experience life fully and with gratitude, knowing that we may never encounter the same moment again. In Zen, we are encouraged to embrace this impermanence, to let go of our desire for permanence, and to find peace in the ever-changing nature of life. Imagine a beautiful sunset. You watch as the sky changes color, the light shifting, the colors blending. For a moment, you are fully immersed in the beauty of the scene. And then the sunset fades and the colors disappear. At first, you may feel a pang of sadness, wishing the sunset could last longer. But in Zen, we understand that it is precisely because the sunset is temporary that it is so beautiful. It will never be the same again, and that is what makes it unique and special. If it lasted forever, we would cease to appreciate its beauty. In our daily lives, we can practice embracing impermanence by observing the changing nature of our thoughts, emotions, and experiences. Just like the sunset, our emotions come and go. One moment, we may feel joyful. The next moment, we may feel sadness. This is the natural ebb and flow of life. Instead of clinging to a particular feeling or trying to hold on to happiness, we can simply observe these emotions, understanding that they too will pass. When we accept the impermanence of our feelings, we stop identifying with them. We no longer see our emotions as permanent parts of ourselves. Instead, we recognize that they are temporary and ever-changing, like waves in the ocean. This awareness allows us to let go of the need to control or manipulate our emotions and experience them with more ease and acceptance. Embracing impermanence also means recognizing that change is a part of the natural order of life. We may resist change because we fear the unknown, but change is what allows us to grow. Just as a seed must change and transform in order to become a flower, we too must embrace change in order to evolve and expand. Every moment, every experience is an opportunity for growth, even if it's not always comfortable. By letting go of our attachment to permanence, we can fully embrace the flow of life. We stop resisting what is, and instead learn to accept each moment as it comes with all of its joys and challenges. In this acceptance, we find peace. The next time you find yourself clinging to something, ask yourself, what am I afraid of losing? Recognize that the impermanence of life is not something to fear, but something to embrace. It's what makes each moment precious, what allows us to grow, and what opens the door to peace. When we let go of the need for permanence, we create space for peace, freedom, and a deeper connection to the present moment. In Zen, we learn to live with impermanence, understanding that life is constantly changing. We no longer try to hold on to anything or anyone, but instead, we experience each moment fully knowing that it too shall pass. And in this understanding, we find peace. Acceptance is often misunderstood. Many people think that to accept something is to give up, to resign ourselves to a situation without trying to improve it. But in Zen and Buddhist teachings, acceptance is not about passivity. It's about embracing life as it is without resistance, without judgment, and without attachment to a specific outcome. True acceptance involves recognizing that we cannot control every situation, but we can control how we respond to it. Have you ever found yourself frustrated with a situation because it wasn't going the way you wanted? Perhaps you felt angry or upset, wishing things were different. But in that moment, you were resisting what was. What would happen if instead of fighting against the situation, you simply accepted it? Acceptance doesn't mean approval. It simply means acknowledging reality as it is without judgment. In the teachings of the Buddha, we learn that suffering arises from our resistance to life. When we resist what is happening, we add unnecessary layers of stress and frustration to an already difficult situation. But when we accept things as they are, we release that burden and open ourselves to peace. Acceptance doesn't mean we don't act, but it means that we act with a clear mind without emotional attachment to the outcome. One of the Zen stories that illustrates acceptance is that of a Zen master who was asked by a disciple, "Master, what is the essence of Zen?" The master replied, "Sit down and drink your tea." The disciple was puzzled, wondering if the answer was too simple. But the master continued, "When you drink your tea, just drink it. Don't think about anything else. Don't worry about the past or the future. Just drink your tea. Accept the moment fully without trying to change it." This simple story points to the essence of acceptance being fully present in each moment without resistance. When we accept the present as it is without trying to change it, we find peace. It is in these moments of presence that we experience life in its purest form, unclouded by our expectations, judgments, and desires. So how can we practice acceptance in our daily lives? The first step is to become aware of when we are resisting. Notice when you feel frustrated, anxious, or upset, and ask yourself, what am I resisting right now? Once you become aware of the resistance, allow yourself to pause and take a deep breath. Remind yourself that life is not always within your control, but your response is. Accepting the present moment doesn't mean we have to like everything that is happening. It simply means we stop fighting against it. For example, if you find yourself stuck in traffic, instead of getting upset, simply accept that you cannot change the situation. You can still choose how to respond. Maybe you can listen to music, focus on your breathing, or simply enjoy the stillness. When you stop resisting, you free yourself from the stress and frustration that comes with it. Acceptance also means accepting ourselves exactly as we are. So often we judge ourselves harshly, believing that we are not good enough or that we need to change in order to be worthy of love and peace. But in Zen, we are encouraged to accept ourselves as we are without judgment. This doesn't mean we stop growing or improving, but it means that we acknowledge our inherent worth and embrace ourselves with kindness and compassion. When we accept ourselves, we stop the inner struggle. We release the need to prove ourselves to be perfect or to live up to others' expectations. In doing so, we create space for peace to enter. Self-acceptance allows us to be more authentic and more at ease with who we are, no longer needing to wear a mask or hide parts of ourselves. By practicing acceptance, we cultivate an inner peace that is not dependent on external circumstances. No matter what life throws at us, we can accept it with an open heart and a calm mind. This acceptance leads to a sense of freedom as we stop trying to control or resist the world around us. We allow life to unfold as it will, and in doing so, we experience the beauty of each moment exactly as it is. So, as you go through your day, try to practice acceptance. When you encounter something difficult or frustrating, take a moment to pause and breathe. Ask yourself, can I accept this moment as it is? By embracing acceptance, you'll find that peace is not something you have to chase. It's always available right here, right now. In Zen, acceptance is the key to unlocking the door to peace. When we accept life, we are no longer at war with it. We allow it to flow, and in that flow, we find the serenity we've been seeking all along. In Zen and Buddhist teachings, the flow of water is often used as a metaphor for life. Water is soft, gentle, yet incredibly powerful. It flows around obstacles, wears down the hardest stone, and finds its way no matter what. This quality of water, its adaptability, its fluidity, teaches us important lessons about how to live peacefully in the world. Have you ever noticed how water flows effortlessly, never resisting the path it encounters? When water encounters a rock, it doesn't fight it. It simply moves around it. When life's challenges come our way, we often react with resistance, wanting to control or change the situation. But what if instead of fighting, we allowed ourselves to flow with the circumstances like water flowing around a rock? Zen teaches that we can learn to live in harmony with life's natural flow. This doesn't mean that we don't face difficulties or obstacles. It means that we approach them with the same grace and ease that water demonstrates. Instead of trying to force our will on life, we can learn to accept and adapt to what comes, understanding that every challenge is an opportunity for growth. Water also teaches us the importance of letting go. Just as water flows freely, it doesn't hold on to anything. It moves through the world without attachment, and in this movement, it remains pure and free. In our lives, we often cling to things, whether it's a relationship, a job, or a certain outcome. But when we hold on too tightly, we restrict our own growth and peace. Just like water, we must learn to let go, to flow with life's natural course, and to release our attachment to what we cannot control. This practice of letting go and flowing with life can be especially difficult when we face uncertainty. It's easy to want to cling to something familiar to create a sense of security. But when we resist change, we only create more suffering. When we let go, and embrace the flow, we find peace in the unknown, just as water finds its way, even when it's unclear where it will go. Another lesson from water is its ability to be present in every moment. Water doesn't think about where it's been or where it's going. It's simply present in the here and now. When we are caught up in worries about the future or regrets about the past, we miss the beauty of the present moment. Water teaches us to be fully present, to experience life as it is without distraction or judgment. Mindfulness practice, which is central to Zen, is about being like water, fully immersed in each moment. Whether we're eating, walking, or having a conversation, we can approach each activity with full presence and awareness, just as water is fully present in the stream. By practicing mindfulness, we cultivate the ability to experience life in its full richness, just as water embraces every curve of its journey. Water also reminds us that nothing is permanent. It moves continuously, never staying in one place for long. Just as water flows, so too does life change. We often resist this change, clinging to what we know. But life, like water, is constantly shifting. Zen teaches us to embrace this impermanence, to let go of the need for things to remain the same. When we learn to flow with the changes in life, we experience a sense of freedom and peace. The ability to let go, to adapt, and to stay present in the flow of life is what gives us the peace we seek. Water's journey teaches us that by moving with life's currents, instead of resisting them, we can find ease in the midst of challenges. So as you move through your day, consider the flow of water. How can you be more like water in your life? When obstacles arise, can you flow around them with grace? When things don't go as planned, can you allow yourself to adapt without resistance? By learning from the flow of water, we can approach life with more ease, more flexibility, and more peace. Water's teachings are a reminder that life doesn't need to be controlled. It needs to be lived. When we flow with life, we find the natural rhythm of peace, and in that rhythm, we discover the harmony and freedom that we've been seeking. Fear is one of the most powerful emotions we experience. It grips us in moments of uncertainty, clouds our judgment, and stops us from living freely. Fear often holds us back from pursuing our dreams, from taking risks, and from fully embracing life. Have you ever noticed how fear makes everything seem larger than it really is? The more we focus on our fears, the more they grow, consuming our thoughts and actions. In Zen and Buddhism, one of the most important teachings is learning to let go of fear. The Buddha taught that fear arises from attachment, our attachment to comfort, to safety, to outcomes. When we let go of these attachments, we free ourselves from the grip of fear. This doesn't mean we don't feel fear. It means that we stop letting fear control our lives. Fear is often based on an imagined future. We fear what might happen, what we think will happen, or what we don't know. But in reality, the future is always uncertain, and we cannot predict or control it. The only moment we truly have is the present. When we let go of our fear of the future, we come back to the present moment where peace exists. One Zen story beautifully illustrates this point. A monk traveling in the forest encounters a tiger. The tiger begins to chase him, and in his fear, the monk climbs a tree to escape. But as the tiger circles the tree, the monk sees that the branch he is holding is beginning to break. At that moment, he realizes he is facing death, whether from the tiger or from the branch, breaking. In this instant, he does not fight the tiger or resist the branch's inevitable break. Instead, he simply lets go. He releases the fear, and in that moment of surrender, he experiences a profound peace. the branch doesn't break, and the tiger leaves. This story teaches us that fear is often a mental construct. When we stop resisting and let go, we can find peace even in the most terrifying moments. By facing our fears rather than avoiding them, we release the power they have over us. Letting go of fear requires courage. It means facing the unknown with an open heart, trusting that no matter what happens, we will be okay. Fear often arises from the belief that we must control the outcome. But when we release this need for control, we allow ourselves to flow with life, accepting what comes without fear. One of the practices in Zen to overcome fear is mindfulness. When fear arises, we are encouraged to simply observe it. Notice the physical sensations in your body, the thoughts in your mind, and the emotions you are feeling. Instead of trying to push the fear away, simply observe it. By doing this, we create space between ourselves and the fear. We realize that fear is just another passing emotion, like a wave that rises and falls. Mindfulness allows us to let go of our attachment to fear. Instead of identifying with it, we acknowledge it without judgment and let it pass. The more we practice this, the less power fear has over us. Another way to overcome fear is to embrace uncertainty. Often fear arises because we are afraid of what we don't know or can't control. But life is inherently uncertain, and the more we try to control it, the more anxious we become. Zen teaches us to accept uncertainty as part of life. Instead of trying to predict or control what will happen, we learn to live with the unknown. In embracing uncertainty, we release the need for perfection, the need to always have everything figured out. When we stop trying to control every aspect of life, we open ourselves up to new experiences. We trust that no matter what comes, we will be able to handle it. This trust is the antidote to fear. As you move through your day, reflect on the moments when fear arises. What is it that you are afraid of? Are you afraid of an outcome of the unknown or of loss? Can you release the attachment to these fears and simply be present? The more we practice letting go of fear, the more we experience life with clarity and courage, free from the limitations that fear imposes. In Zen, we are reminded that fear is not something to be feared. It is something to be observed, understood, and let go of. When we stop resisting fear, we create the space for true peace. By overcoming fear through letting go, we not only liberate ourselves from unnecessary suffering, but also discover a deep sense of inner peace. Fear can no longer control us when we stop identifying with it. We become free to live authentically, to pursue our dreams, and to embrace life in all its uncertainty. In letting go of fear, we let go of the barriers that prevent us from experiencing the fullness of life. And in this freedom, peace is always present. Expectations are one of the most subtle sources of stress and dissatisfaction in our lives. We set expectations for ourselves, for others, and for the world around us. These expectations can take many forms: expecting success, expecting love, expecting happiness, or expecting life to unfold in a particular way. But when our expectations aren't met, we often feel disappointed, frustrated, or even angry. Have you ever felt let down when things didn't go according to your expectations? Zen teaches us that our attachment to expectations is a major source of suffering. The more we cling to the idea of how things should be, the more we set ourselves up for disappointment when things inevitably turn out differently. When we let go of our expectations, we free ourselves from the cycle of disappointment and frustration. Letting go of expectations doesn't mean we stop having desires or goals, but it means releasing the attachment to a specific outcome. The Buddha taught that attachment to expectations creates suffering because it keeps us stuck in the belief that things need to be a certain way for us to be happy. When we let go of that attachment, we open ourselves to the possibility of things unfolding in a way we never imagined. And often this leads to a greater sense of peace and fulfillment. One of the Zen teachings on letting go of expectations is the story of a student who asked their master how to achieve enlightenment. The master replied, "When you drink, just drink. When you eat, just eat." The student was confused and asked, "But how can I reach enlightenment if I'm just drinking or eating?" The master smiled and said, "The problem is that you are not truly drinking or eating. You are always expecting something else. The moment you let go of the expectation for something more, you will find peace." This story teaches us that our expectations often pull us out of the present moment. We are constantly waiting for the next thing, the next achievement, the next feeling. But when we let go of these expectations and immerse ourselves fully in the present, we experience life as it is, with all of its simplicity and beauty. Letting go of expectations is a practice that requires mindfulness. It means noticing when we are attached to a particular outcome and gently letting go of that attachment. When we are able to live without the weight of our expectations, we begin to experience life with more freedom and peace. One way to practice letting go of expectations is by setting intentions rather than rigid goals. Intentions are more flexible. They're about guiding our actions without being attached to a specific result. For example, instead of saying, "I will be successful by the end of this year," we can set the intention, "I will work towards my goals," with an open mind and heart accepting whatever comes. By shifting our mindset from expectation to intention, we free ourselves from the pressure of specific outcomes. Another way to let go of expectations is by practicing acceptance. Acceptance is the ability to acknowledge things as they are without trying to change them. When we accept life without expecting it to be different, we find peace. This doesn't mean we become passive or stop striving for improvement, but it means that we stop fighting against reality. We accept what is happening right now, knowing that things will continue to change. In Zen, we are taught that the present moment is all we have. When we focus on the present and let go of expectations, we can experience life fully. Expectations often pull us away from the present, either by focusing on the future or by creating dissatisfaction with the present. But when we stop expecting and simply experience life as it unfolds, we open ourselves to the possibility of peace in every moment. As you go through your day, notice the moments when you are attached to expectations. Are you waiting for a specific result? Are you trying to control the outcome of a situation? The more you let go of these expectations, the more you'll notice the peace that comes from simply being present with what is. Letting go of expectations is not about giving up on life or not striving for success. It's about releasing the need for things to turn out exactly as we envision them. When we let go of our attachment to specific outcomes, we open ourselves to the flow of life and the peace that comes with it. By letting go of expectations, we free ourselves from disappointment and frustration. We can move through life with a greater sense of ease, knowing that we are not attached to any specific outcome. Instead, we live fully in each moment, accepting it as it is. And in this acceptance, peace is always available. In the midst of a noisy world, silence can often be overlooked or feared. We live in a culture that prizes constant activity, information, and interaction. Our minds are constantly bombarded with stimuli, messages, notifications, conversations, leaving little space for silence or reflection. But what if silence is not something to fear, but something to embrace? Have you ever noticed how much noise your mind makes even when there is no external sound? What would it be like to step into the quiet and simply be? Zen teachings often speak of the importance of silence not only in the external world, but also within our minds. In silence, we can hear the whispers of our true selves. In the stillness, we are able to connect with the peace that is always present beneath the surface of our thoughts. Silence is not just the absence of sound. It is the presence of clarity, presence, and insight. The Buddha himself often sought out silence as a way of deepening his practice. In the quiet of meditation, he was able to hear his inner voice free from the distractions of the world. Through this practice of silence, he gained a deeper understanding of the nature of suffering and the path to peace. Silence allows us to turn inward, to hear the wisdom of our hearts, and to connect with the stillness that is always present within. In Zen, silence is viewed as a doorway to mindfulness and presence. When we allow ourselves to sit in silence, we create the space to observe our thoughts and emotions without becoming caught up in them. Our thoughts may rise and fall like waves on the ocean, but in the silence, we learn to simply observe them without judgment or attachment. This practice helps us to quiet the mind and experience the present moment more fully. One Zen story beautifully illustrates the power of silence. A Zen master was once asked, "What is the true nature of Zen?" Without speaking, the master pointed to a flower in bloom. The disciple, not fully understanding, asked again, "What is the essence of Zen?" Again, the master remained silent, pointing once more to the flower. In that moment, the disciple understood. The essence of Zen is not found in words or explanations, but in the silence between them, in the present moment, in the simplicity of life unfolding before us. Silence does not always mean complete stillness or an absence of sound. It can also refer to a state of quiet awareness. In meditation, silence allows us to create the space needed to observe our thoughts, emotions, and reactions. When we stop talking both outwardly and inwardly, we make room for deeper understanding and insight. It's in this silence that we begin to hear the voice of wisdom free from the clutter of our habitual thoughts. The practice of sitting in silence, allowing thoughts to rise and fall without attachment, helps us let go of our identification with those thoughts. We begin to realize that we are not our thoughts, and we are certainly not defined by them. We are simply the observer, watching the flow of thoughts and emotions come and go. Silence is also an invitation to listen not only to ourselves, but to the world around us. In the quiet, we begin to hear things we might otherwise miss: the sound of our breath, the rustling of the trees, the distant hum of life. The world speaks to us in whispers when we take the time to listen. It's in these moments of silence that we can truly connect with nature, with others, and with our deepest selves. In Zen practice, silence is not just the absence of sound, but a conscious choice to be present, to allow life to unfold without resistance or distraction. When we embrace silence, we allow ourselves to be present with whatever arises, whether it's joy, pain, fear, or peace, without the need to fill the space with words or distractions. As you move through your day, consider the moments when you can embrace silence. It doesn't have to be in total stillness. It can be in the simple act of pausing to observe, to breathe, or to listen. In these moments, you may find that peace is not something you need to seek. It is already here, waiting for you to notice it. By making space for silence in your life, you allow yourself to connect with a deeper, quieter part of yourself. You create space for peace to emerge free from the noise and distractions of the world. In the silence, you find clarity. You find presence. You find peace. Non-attachment is one of the most misunderstood concepts in Zen and Buddhist teachings. Many people think of attachment as simply holding on to material possessions or relationships, but attachment runs deeper. It's not just about clinging to physical objects. It's about clinging to ideas, outcomes, expectations, and even our own identity. Have you ever found yourself attached to a particular result or a way things should be only to feel frustrated when reality doesn't match your expectations? Zen teaches us that true freedom comes from letting go of attachment. Non-attachment doesn't mean disengagement or indifference. Rather, it means living fully and fully engaging in life without becoming overly attached to any particular outcome. Non-attachment is the ability to experience life without clinging to it, to embrace the present moment without the need for control or perfection. The Buddha taught that attachment is the root of suffering. When we cling to people, possessions, or situations, we begin to believe that they are the source of our happiness. But this attachment is fragile. People change, possessions break, and situations evolve. By holding on too tightly to them, we set ourselves up for pain when they inevitably shift. Non-attachment frees us from this cycle of grasping and disappointment. One of the most profound Zen stories about non-attachment is the tale of a monk who was known for his calm and serenity. One day, he was offered a beautiful robe as a gift from a wealthy patron. The monk accepted it graciously, but placed the robe down and continued his meditation as if nothing had changed. When a disciple asked him why he did not seem overjoyed by the gift, the monk replied, "This robe is just a robe. It is neither mine nor yours. It comes and it goes. I am not attached to it." This simple yet profound response encapsulates the essence of non-attachment. The monk did not reject the gift, but he also did not cling to it. He accepted it for what it was, knowing that it was impermanent. Non-attachment does not mean denying the pleasures or comforts of life. It means not allowing them to define us or control our happiness. To practice non-attachment, we first need to recognize where we are clinging. Ask yourself, what am I holding on to? What do I believe I need to be happy or peaceful? It could be a relationship, a material object, or even a belief about who you are. Once you identify what you're attached to, practice observing it without judgment. Notice the thoughts and emotions that arise when you think about it. Can you let it go just for a moment? Non-attachment isn't about abandoning everything in your life. It's about not allowing your happiness to depend on it. For example, you can love your friends and family deeply, but you don't need them to act in a certain way for you to feel complete. You can pursue your goals and dreams, but you don't need them to define your worth. Non-attachment allows us to appreciate what we have without clinging to it. Another way to practice non-attachment is to embrace change. Attachment often arises from the desire for things to remain the same. We want our relationships, our career, and our circumstances to stay stable, because change feels uncertain or even threatening. But change is a natural part of life, and resisting it only causes stress. When we accept that life is constantly evolving, we become more open to the flow of change. Zen teaches us to be like the bamboo in the wind, bending, adapting, and remaining grounded even as circumstances shift. When we allow ourselves to move with change rather than resisting it, we find peace in the flow of life. Non-attachment also means letting go of the need to control. We often believe that if we just control every aspect of our lives, everything will go according to plan. But control is an illusion. Life cannot be fully controlled, and trying to do so only leads to frustration and exhaustion. By practicing non-attachment, we release the need to control outcomes and instead trust that life will unfold as it should. This trust brings a sense of peace as we stop struggling against the current and begin to float with it. In the practice of non-attachment, we discover that peace is found not in holding on to things, but in releasing them. When we let go of the need to control, to possess, and to cling, we make space for true freedom. This freedom allows us to experience life fully without the weight of expectations or attachments holding us back. So as you move through your day, notice where you might be clinging, whether to a belief, an outcome, or an object. Can you let go even for a moment? By practicing non-attachment, we free ourselves from the limitations of our attachments and experience life with more clarity, peace, and ease. In our modern world, we are constantly surrounded by distractions and complexity. We fill our lives with possessions, tasks, and obligations, believing that more will bring us happiness. Yet the more we accumulate, the more overwhelmed we feel. What if the secret to true peace wasn't in accumulating more, but in simplifying our lives? What if peace could be found in letting go of the unnecessary and embracing simplicity? Zen teachings emphasize the power of simplicity. The more we simplify our lives, the clearer our minds become. The Buddha taught that the path to enlightenment is not complicated. It's about removing the layers of desire, attachment, and distraction that cloud our inner peace. Simplicity doesn't mean living without comfort or pleasure. It means living in a way that is intentional, clear, and uncluttered. Think about the beauty of nature. A forest is not filled with unnecessary things. It's full of the essentials: trees, water, sky, and earth. The simplicity of nature is what makes it so peaceful. The same can be true for our lives. When we remove the distractions, the excess, and the clutter, both physical and mental, we make room for peace to enter. In Zen practice, simplicity is reflected in everything from the way we meditate to the way we approach life. Meditation is a practice of simplicity, sitting quietly, breathing deeply, and letting go of thoughts. There's no need to complicate the process. We don't need to force peace. We just need to be present. The same is true for daily life. When we simplify our tasks, reduce our distractions, and focus on what truly matters, we create space for peace to grow. Take a moment and think about your daily life. How much of it is filled with things that don't really matter? How many of your possessions or obligations are simply distractions? By letting go of what's unnecessary, you make room for clarity and calm. This is the essence of simplicity, living with intention and focus without the noise of excess. Simplicity also means slowing down. In a world that encourages constant speed and productivity, slowing down can feel counterintuitive. But Zen teaches us that by slowing down, we are actually able to experience life more fully. When we rush through life, we miss the beauty of the present moment. By slowing down, we allow ourselves to be present in each step, each breath, and each action. Imagine walking slowly through a quiet garden, noticing the colors of the flowers, the rustle of the leaves, and the scent of the earth. When we slow down, we are able to fully appreciate the world around us. In the same way, when we slow down in our daily lives, we can experience more joy and peace in the simple moments. Simplicity doesn't just apply to the things we own. It also applies to how we move through the world. Another important aspect of simplicity is letting go of the need for perfection. We often strive for perfection in our work, our relationships, and even in ourselves. But this pursuit of perfection can create stress and dissatisfaction. In Zen, we are taught to embrace imperfection. The beauty of life lies not in perfection, but in the natural flow of things. Take, for example, the Japanese art of kintsugi, the practice of repairing broken pottery with gold. Instead of trying to hide the imperfections, the art highlights them, showing that beauty can be found in the cracks and flaws. This is the essence of simplicity, accepting things as they are without the need for constant improvement or control. Life doesn't need to be perfect to be beautiful. In fact, it's often in its imperfections that we find the greatest peace. Simplifying your life doesn't mean you need to give up everything or live without joy. It simply means becoming more intentional with your choices. It's about focusing on what truly brings you peace, joy, and fulfillment, and letting go of the rest. Whether it's your possessions, your commitments, or your mental clutter, simplifying your life can help you reconnect with what matters most. As you move through your day, practice simplicity by letting go of unnecessary distractions. Focus on what's truly important and let go of what no longer serves you. By simplifying your life, you make space for peace, clarity, and joy. In Zen, simplicity is seen as a path to peace. The simpler our lives, the more at peace we become. When we remove the noise and clutter, we create the space needed to experience life fully. The more we embrace simplicity, the more we discover that true peace is not found in more, but in less. It's in the quiet moments, the simple actions, and the unhurried pace of life that we find the serenity we seek. In life, there are moments when we are faced with uncertainty, confusion, or fear of the unknown. We often feel the urge to control our circumstances, to ensure everything turns out as we hope. But the more we try to control the process, the more we create stress and anxiety. What if, instead of trying to control everything, we simply trusted the process and allowed life to unfold naturally? Can we let go of our need to know the outcome and trust that everything will fall into place in its own time? Zen teaches us that life is a process, a journey that unfolds one moment at a time. When we trust the process, we let go of the need to predict, control, or manipulate the future. We embrace the uncertainty and allow ourselves to be guided by the present moment. Trusting the process means having faith in the flow of life, even when we don't understand where it's taking us. When we trust the process, we stop clinging to a specific outcome. Instead, we surrender to life's natural rhythm, knowing that each step, each moment, is part of a larger plan. We stop fighting against what is, and instead, we trust that everything is happening as it should. This trust brings a deep sense of peace as we release the need to control or control the future. The Buddha taught that suffering arises from attachment to our desires and expectations. We desire things to go a certain way, and when they don't, we experience disappointment, frustration, or fear. But by letting go of our attachment to the outcome, we free ourselves from the cycle of disappointment and anxiety. We begin to trust that life is unfolding in the way that is most beneficial for our growth and development, even if we don't fully understand it at the moment. Zen masters often use the metaphor of a river to describe the process of trusting life. A river does not resist the obstacles in its path. It simply flows around them. Similarly, in life, when we trust the process, we move with the current rather than fighting against it. Life has its own natural flow, and when we stop resisting, we can move with it more easily, with greater ease and peace. Trusting the process also means letting go of our need for immediate results. In today's world, we are used to instant gratification, to getting what we want quickly and easily. But life doesn't always work on our timetable. Sometimes we must wait for the right moment, for the right circumstances to align. Trusting the process means being patient with ourselves and with life, knowing that everything happens in its own time. One Zen story illustrates this idea beautifully. A farmer had a seed that he planted in his field. He watered it, tended to it, and waited for it to grow. Every day he checked on it, but for a long time nothing seemed to happen. The farmer began to worry that the seed was not growing. But one day, he saw the tiniest sprout emerge from the soil. Over time, the sprout grew into a strong, healthy plant. The farmer's patience and trust in the process had allowed the seed to grow in its own time. This story teaches us that growth takes time. Whether it's a personal goal, a relationship, or a project, we must trust that things will unfold when the time is right. By letting go of our impatience and allowing the process to unfold naturally, we create space for growth and peace. Trusting the process also involves trusting ourselves. We often doubt our own abilities, wondering if we're making the right choices or if we're on the right path. But when we trust the process, we trust that we are exactly where we need to be, even if we don't fully understand the journey. We trust that the experiences we are having are shaping us and preparing us for what comes next. By trusting ourselves and our ability to handle whatever arises, we release the fear and anxiety that comes from doubting our own strength. We trust that no matter what challenges we face, we are capable of navigating them with grace and wisdom. So the next time you feel overwhelmed by uncertainty, take a step back and remember to trust the process. Trust that life is unfolding as it should, even if you don't have all the answers. Let go of the need to control the outcome and embrace the journey. Trusting the process doesn't mean inaction. It means surrendering to the flow of life, acting with intention and clarity, and accepting that we don't always know what the future holds. In Zen, we learn to trust the moment, to trust ourselves, and to trust the process. When we do, we find that peace comes naturally. We no longer feel the need to force or manipulate life. Instead, we let go and allow the current of life to carry us forward, knowing that we are exactly where we need to be. After walking the path of Zen and exploring the teachings of mindfulness, detachment, non-resistance, and acceptance, there is one final step in our journey toward peace. This step is perhaps the most challenging, yet also the most liberating, letting go of the ego. The ego, that part of ourselves that constantly seeks validation, control, and approval, is the root of much of our suffering. It is the ego that causes us to believe we are separate from others, that we must prove ourselves, and that we must always be right. But what if instead of clinging to our ego, we let it go? What if we could surrender the need to defend ourselves, the need to be seen as important or superior, and the need to control how others perceive us? This final step is about releasing the identification with the self and embracing the vastness of our true nature, one that is interconnected with all things without boundaries or limitations. Have you ever felt the weight of your own ego, the constant desire to be validated or seen? The moment we let go of this attachment to the ego, we experience a profound freedom. The Zen teachings remind us that true peace lies in realizing that we are not the ego. We are the awareness behind it. When we stop identifying with the ego, we stop the cycle of self-centered thinking and open ourselves to a deeper sense of connection with the world around us. In Zen, letting go of the ego is not about erasing our individuality or losing our sense of self. It's about seeing through the illusion that the ego is the true self. The ego is like a mask we wear, identifying ourselves with roles, achievements, and titles. But behind this mask lies the true self, which is vast, interconnected, and free from the limitations of the ego. Zen teaches us to observe the ego without identifying with it. Instead of reacting to situations from a place of self-centeredness, we learn to respond from a place of openness and compassion. By letting go of the need to protect our ego, we open ourselves to greater wisdom, love, and peace. One Zen story illustrates the power of letting go of the ego. A master once told his disciple, "When you are free from the self, you are free from all suffering." The disciple, puzzled, asked, "But how can I be free from the self?" "The self is who I am." The master smiled and replied, "You are not the self. The self is just a thought, a temporary illusion. You are the space in which the self appears. When you let go of the illusion, you are free." This story teaches us that the ego is not who we truly are. It's a fleeting thought, a temporary construct, but it is not the essence of our being. When we release the identification with the ego, we return to our true nature, an expansive awareness that is free from fear, judgment, and limitation. Letting go of the ego is a process, one that requires consistent practice and self-awareness. It begins with noticing when the ego is at work, when we feel defensive, when we seek approval, when we strive for validation. In these moments, we can pause and simply observe. This is the ego speaking, we can say to ourselves. By acknowledging the ego without judgment, we create space between the ego and our true self. As we practice this awareness, the ego's grip begins to loosen. We no longer feel the need to defend ourselves or prove our worth. Instead, we can embrace life as it comes free from the need to control or manipulate the outcome. We act with compassion, understanding, and wisdom, knowing that we are not the ego, but the awareness behind it. In the process of letting go of the ego, we also let go of the need to compare ourselves to others. The ego thrives on comparison. It constantly measures itself against others, seeking superiority or inferiority. But when we release this need for comparison, we embrace the inherent worth and dignity of all beings. We see others as equals, not as threats or rivals. This shift in perspective allows us to connect with others more deeply without judgment or competition. Letting go of the ego also allows us to experience a deeper sense of peace within ourselves. When we no longer cling to our self-image, we stop creating internal conflict. We no longer battle with ourselves or the world around us. Instead, we flow with life, accepting each moment as it is without attachment or resistance. The final step to peace is not something we accomplish overnight, but a practice that continues throughout our lives. Each time we let go of the ego, we create more space for peace to enter. Each time we release the need to protect, defend, or prove ourselves, we align more fully with our true nature. And with each step, we become more free, more peaceful, and more connected to the world around us. So, as you move through your day, notice when your ego tries to take over, when you feel the need to control, to be validated, or to prove something. In those moments, take a deep breath and let go. You are not the ego. You are the awareness behind it. When you let go of the ego, you make space for true peace to enter. Having explored the various teachings of Zen and Buddhism, letting go of attachments, embracing impermanence, practicing mindfulness, and releasing the ego, it's time to reflect on how we integrate these teachings into our daily lives. The path to peace is not a one-time destination. It is a continual journey that requires us to remain present, grounded, and aware in each moment. So how do we make these profound teachings practical and applicable to our everyday experiences? Integration begins with awareness. The more we practice mindfulness, the more we begin to notice our thoughts, emotions, and actions. We become aware of when we are clinging to expectations, resisting change, or reacting out of fear or attachment. In these moments, we can choose to pause and return to the teachings we've learned, to accept the present moment, to let go of control, to trust the process, and to respond with compassion. But integration isn't just about observing our thoughts. It's about actively applying the wisdom of Zen to our actions. When we encounter challenges, instead of reacting with frustration or anxiety, we can choose to respond with calm patience and openness. When faced with a difficult situation, we can remind ourselves to release our attachment to the outcome and trust that life will unfold as it should. By making these choices in the moment, we align ourselves with the flow of life, creating more space for peace. One way to integrate these teachings is by setting intentions. Instead of rigid goals or expectations, intentions are flexible, allowing us to move forward with clarity and purpose without clinging to a specific result. For example, instead of saying, "I must be successful by this time next year," we can set the intention to remain mindful and present with our work, trusting that the process will unfold in its own time. Intentions guide our actions without attaching our happiness or peace to a particular outcome. Another key to integration is self-compassion. Zen teaches us to approach ourselves with the same kindness and acceptance that we extend to others. We all have moments of struggle, frustration, and doubt. It's in these moments that we must remember to be gentle with ourselves. Instead of harsh self-criticism or judgment, we can offer ourselves understanding and love, just as we would a dear friend. This self-compassion allows us to move through life with greater ease and peace. As we integrate these teachings, we also begin to realize that peace isn't something we need to find. It's something that we already are. Beneath the layers of attachment, expectation, and ego, there is a stillness, a calm that is always present. This realization is what leads to true freedom. When we let go of the belief that we need to achieve peace, we discover that peace is already within us, waiting to be uncovered. Zen teaches that the path to peace is not about becoming something else, but about realizing who we truly are. The more we let go of the layers of identification and attachment, the more we come home to our true nature, a place of stillness, wisdom, and peace. This realization is not a destination, but an ongoing practice. Each time we return to mindfulness, each time we let go of the ego, each time we embrace impermanence, we move closer to realizing our true nature. The beauty of this journey is that it's not about reaching a perfect state of peace. It's about learning to be present with whatever arises. Life will always bring challenges, but when we respond with mindfulness, non-resistance, and acceptance, we create the space for peace, no matter what the circumstances. By integrating these teachings into our lives, we cultivate a sense of inner freedom that allows us to navigate life's ups and downs with grace and ease. As you continue on your journey, remember that peace is not something you have to chase. It is already within you, always available in each moment. The more you let go of attachments, expectations, and the need to control, the more you will realize that peace is not a goal to be reached, but a state of being to be experienced. So as you walk through your day practice, integrating the teachings of Zen and Buddhism into your life, observe when you are clinging, resisting, or reacting out of attachment. Gently bring your attention back to the present moment, to acceptance, to compassion, and to peace. With each step, you will find that the more you live in alignment with these teachings, the more peace and serenity will naturally arise in your life. This is the path to peace, not one of perfection or achievement, but one of awareness, acceptance, and integration. Every moment is an opportunity to live in peace, to let go, and to trust that everything is unfolding as it should. As we reach the final chapter of our journey, we come to understand that peace is not a destination. It is an endless journey. Throughout this exploration of Zen and Buddhist teachings, we've learned about letting go, embracing impermanence, practicing mindfulness, and releasing the ego. We've seen how each of these practices leads to a deeper sense of peace. But we also realize that peace itself is not something we can achieve once and for all. It's something that we cultivate in every moment, in every breath. Zen teaches us that life is not a linear path to an end goal, but a continuous unfolding. Just as the seasons change, so too does our experience of peace. There may be moments when we feel deeply centered and at ease, and other times when we face challenges that shake our sense of calm. But in both the ease and the turbulence, peace is always available, waiting for us to return to it. The idea of an endless journey can seem daunting, but in Zen, we learn to embrace the process rather than focusing on the end. The path itself, the practice of being present, of letting go, of accepting, is where the peace lies. Each moment is an opportunity to deepen our practice, to refine our awareness, and to experience life with greater clarity and calm. As you move forward from this journey, remember that peace is not something you need to fight for or grasp. It is found in the simplest moments in your breath, in the quiet moments between thoughts, in the acceptance of what is. Each day presents new opportunities to practice peace, and each day you can come closer to embodying that peace. There will be moments of discomfort, doubt, and struggle, but even in those moments, you can return to the teachings you've learned. You can let go of resistance, accept the present moment, and trust the process. Zen reminds us that life is fleeting and ever-changing, and in this impermanence, there is beauty. We don't need to hold on to anything, to try to control everything, or to create a perfect life. We simply need to live fully in the present, embracing whatever arises with an open heart and mind. The more we do this, the more we cultivate peace, not as an external goal, but as an internal state of being. This is the essence of the endless journey to peace embracing life as it is with all its uncertainties, challenges, and joys. Every step we take, every breath we take is part of that journey. When we let go of expectations, when we stop fighting the flow of life, we discover that peace is not something to be found. It's already within us. It's always been there, waiting for us to recognize it. And so this journey continues not as a struggle, but as a dance. With each moment, we deepen our understanding of peace, and with each practice, we embody it more fully. Whether we are sitting in meditation, walking through the world, or facing challenges, we carry peace within us. It is the constant thread that connects all things. As you leave this exploration, take these teachings with you. Let them be a reminder that peace is a choice we make in every moment. It's a choice to let go of attachment, to embrace impermanence, to practice mindfulness, and to release the ego. It's a choice to trust the process of life and to accept the present moment as it is. With each practice, you are moving closer to your true nature, a nature that is peaceful, whole, and free. The journey to peace is endless, but that's the beauty of it. There is no final destination to reach only the ongoing practice of living with awareness, love, and acceptance. So as you continue on your path, remember that peace is not something to find, it is something to be in every moment.